Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for another edition of ABJ Live. Once again, continuing our discussion, a lot of business owners have been coming to me saying, Kevin, what do I do now? We are in another situation where our economy is kind of unsure. We don't know where we're going. So today, I have a business mogul here to talk with us. He is Dr. George C. Fraser. He is the chairman and CEO of Fraser Net Incorporated, a company that he founded 32 years ago to lead a global networking and economic development movement for people of African descent. And he is here with us today. How are you doing, Dr. Fraser?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. Now, you have had a very extensive career from Procter and Gamble to Ford. I mean, you have really done a lot in business and in the corporate world.
Yeah, God has been good. He gave me an assignment, and then He provided me the tools, the education, the inspiration, the desire to chart this course that He had laid out for me and to stay that course, understanding that all that is due me will come to me if, in fact, I stay the course.
Now, after your extensive career in the corporate world, you also left to create Fraser Net. Can you explain to us a little bit about Fraser Net and what that represents?
Fraser Net is a 34-year-old movement to aggregate the intellectual capital of Black America, and if not the Black world, to increase opportunities for people of African descent. We increase those opportunities through education, through financial literacy, through starting our own nation, Fraser Nation. Yes, we birthed a new nation in the cloud last year at our Power Networking Conference. We are not an organization that pontificates ad nauseum about our issues. We believe that there needs to be solutions. One of the challenges we have in the context of our race, and yes, I am Black, in case people were not entirely sure. That's the beauty of our culture. We come in all shapes, sizes, skin tones, and hair textures. Lots of options out there, brothers and sisters, no need to stray. That's a whole nother subject. But we believe that our ultimate freedom not only will be available to us on the land that we occupy in the natural world, but the land and the real estate that we operate and occupy and own in the cloud.
Wow.
So we are building a new nation in the cloud, a global nation. Now, let me unpack that for a moment, if you will. Technology has provided us an opportunity to meet like this on a regular basis through Zoom calls. This is like I'm in your studio, you're in my studio. We can not only have a conversation, but we can connect with literally billions of people around the globe, if so desired. And because we have this ability, this technology, we are foolish not to maximize the potential of it and to think creatively and innovatively, which we are gifted to do as an African people, on how we could take this to a whole nother level. Technology right now, as we are experiencing it, is profound. But we are really in the Model T stages of the internet. In other words, Henry Ford in the early 1900s could not imagine when he was building the last Model T. He had 4 versions in 1921. He could not imagine that 40 years later, there would be a car called the Lamborghini Countach that could go from 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, when the Model T couldn't even get to 60 miles an hour. He then couldn't imagine that 30 years later, there would be a car called the Ferrari Testarossa that could go from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. So he could not imagine what automobiles would look like 40, 50, 60 years later, as we cannot imagine what the World Wide Web and what the internet will look like 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now. When you consider artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, and 20G, we're now installing 5G.
Wow.
You can't imagine what will be available to us in the cloud as the new real estate of a global society. And if we start now, because nation building takes time, we built the fundamental infrastructure for our nation, and we unleashed that on our world at the Power Networking Conference last July. This is what the full brochure of Fraser Nation looks like. Wow. On the back of this brochure, it simply says freedom, unity, progress for all. Inside the brochure is our preamble. This is what we believe, right? As we flip the pages, we have our own constitution, 15 articles in our own constitution. As we flip through the brochure, in the back of the brochure is not only our constitution, but our Declaration of Interdependence. We have our own declaration. I said interdependence, not independence. Two different things, right?
Explain that for
We
me.
have, yes, we even were so bold to design and make our own flag, right?
Wow.
With 36 stars, each star representing an ancestor of renown, from Mansa Musa to Frederick Douglass and the like. There are 18 awesome brothers from around the world that are the signers of our Declaration of Interdependence, and there are 18 awesome sisters from around the world that have signed and are co-founders of our nation and signers of our Declaration of Interdependence. So we are very serious about this. And we're going to leverage and use technology as it is presented and designed. And we are going to bring our people together. We're going to aggregate the best and brightest Black people in the world. Fraser Nation has a theme: citizens of generational wealth. Citizens of generational wealth, so that we can fulfill Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Right? Our citizens, it's not members. You don't become a member of a nation, you become a citizen of a nation. But our citizens must be committed to demonstrated excellence, equity and investment, and entrepreneurial thinking. We didn't say entrepreneurship, we said entrepreneurial thinking, taking risk, taking responsibility, and taking ownership for our own lives. We didn't say excellence. We said demonstrated excellence. So when you apply for citizenship for our nation, you have a long form to fill out. Just as when you apply for citizenship of any nation, you have a long form to fill out, and you have to qualify. So you have to qualify to be a member. And excellence is the base, not mediocrity, not averageness. Excellence, that is the base. We are in the business, Fraser Net is in the business of Black excellence. And we provide the tools for those of us who think like us to achieve excellence and then move to exceptionalism. Black exceptionalism. It will be the excellence and the exceptional men and women of our race that will lead our people to the promised land. This is not a new idea. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about this in the early 1920s. He called it the talented 10th, right? So the talented 10th, who are the ones who are intellectually curious, the ones who are, have the ability to think critically, will ultimately be the brain for the body of Black people, which is a wonderful metaphor. The body, the human body, Kevin, has 10 operating systems: the respiratory system, the nervous system, the circulatory system. We have 10 systems in the body. But there is one thing in the body that controls all of the systems. And I know you know what that is. It is the brain.
Yes.
Without the brain, none of these systems work. But the brain can't do what the arms can do. The brain can't do what the heart does. The brain can't do what your legs and toes can do. The brain can't do what the circulatory system can do, right? They work together, but something has to control those systems and send the electronic pulses to those systems and the messages to those systems to do the right job and to do their job. So Fraser Nation will be the brain. And all those ready, willing, and able to perform at an excellence level in their subject matter expertise. We don't care whether they're master carpenters, master plumbers, whether they're involved in computer science, computer technology, whatever profession they're involved in, they have to be excellent at it. Now, why is that critically important, Kevin? Because Black people cannot be mediocre. My mama told me, I'm 75 years old, I'm an elder. She told me 60 years ago, Georgie boy, you're going to have to be twice as good to get half as much. Because if you're Black and mediocre in America, you better leave, because you're going to be marginalized and ultimately you're going to be destroyed in this country. We cannot be mediocre as a people. It is not fair, but that's what it is. Only white people can be mediocre. Only white people have the white privilege of being mediocre. How do we know this to be true? Look at the president of the United States. Compare him to Barack Hussein Obama. We have a mediocre white male, a real estate agent or developer, running a country who doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. If Barack Hussein Obama had done 1/1000th or said 1/1000th of what this president had said, he would have not been elected dog catcher. So we cannot be mediocre. We must be excellent. And Fraser Net, birthing Fraser Nation, says that the base of our people who join our nation must have excellence as their main vision, main goal, and main performance measurement.
Now
Long answer to your question, but that's what it is.
We had a great discussion yesterday, and one of the things that stuck out from it, you said, if we're ever going to fix our community, it's up to us. And it takes these 4 pillars. Can you explain to everybody about those 4 pillars that you were telling me about yesterday?
Yeah, that was the two areas. There are 4 pillars for financial literacy and financial education, and we have started an initiative 12 years ago called WINS, Wealth Building Centers and Curriculum. And this is a faith-based initiative where we install wealth building centers in our historically Black church. And we have our own incredible curriculum, costs $250,000 to design. And in there are the 4 pillars for the intergenerational transfer of wealth. So let's put a pin in that. The pillars that you're talking about are the ones that we engaged in a very rich conversation yesterday, and thank you for that. What are those 4 areas that we must focus on as a race of people? That a race cannot prosper without a functional family. Race cannot prosper without family. This is biblical. Family is defined in the Bible as a male, a healthy male, and a healthy female raising children. So the boy will have a model of what a real man is. And the boy, if you're raising a boy, will have a model of what a real woman is. So that when, in fact, he chooses his partner in life, he will have a model, his mother, the first model, right? A model for selecting his partner. And when the daughter, if you're raising a daughter, is selecting her mate for a lifelong partnership, she will have a father who is the model and the template for her selection process. And the man or the boy who is being raised by the man will know how to be a man because the father will have modeled that. So we must have family. What is the main cultural and core value, let's say, of the Hispanic or Latina family? Everybody knows the one word that drives their moral grounding: la familia, la familia. It is the family first. Our family is in the state of deconstruction. In fact, we may have to redefine what the new nuclear black family is, because 72% of our children are born out of wedlock, 60% of our children are raised by a single person household, mostly by black women. I love black women. I've been married to the same black woman for 47 years, right? 47 years. I said
Wow.
47 to the same black woman. I love black women. I don't know what black people would do without black women as much as they have done to raise our children, even without men. 60% of our children are being raised by a single parent household, mostly women. Fundamentally, and I say this, and I still want to be loved, that we cannot have our black women raising our black men.
Wow.
That is the responsibility of the black man. That is our responsibility. Only a man can teach a young black man how to be a man, right? And we cannot teach our daughters how to be women. We can give them our male energy and give them models of what a good man is. But a woman must teach our sisters how to be real women. So this destruction of our family has to be fixed. There's lots of reasons why we have been deconstructed. There are all kinds of reasons, no question about that. We know that racism has played a huge part over the last 400 years. But that was then, this is now, and we're going to have to fix this. We're going to need the best and brightest thinkers and doers in our culture and community to ultimately, over the next 3 to 5 generations, mend the black family, bring it back together. All right. So that's number one. Number two, you can have all the education and all the degrees you want. But if you do not have a financial education, if you are not financially literate, you will fail in a market-based economy, democratic capitalistic society. So economics, from my perspective, must become the new black power. Economics in the 21st century must become the new black power. Now,
Wow.
I could spend the rest of this time talking about the machinations of that and how to do that. But rather than do that, what I decided to do is to build a system that will help educate our people, wins, wealth building systems, right? So I'm not just talking about it, Kevin. I am executing, I'm doing something about it. You see, one of the main challenges with our people is to, we want progress without execution. We want progress, Kevin, without execution. At the end of the day, it's execution, execution, execution. I hear you talking, but what you doing? My mama taught me many years ago, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. So I hear what you're saying, but what you doing, my brother? What you doing, my sister? Are you financially literate, right? Right. It comes right down to you. Are you modeling the behavior that you expect from your children in the area of economic development and wealth creation and personal financial education and personal financial? What are you doing about that? So that's the second leg on the chair that we must ultimately sit on going forward. The third is, I talked about this earlier, is that we have a lack of critical mass of critical thinking needed for the creative utilization of our survival skills. We are some of the most creative and innovative survivors on the planet. Hell, Black people made a meal out of chitlins. We did what we had to do to survive. So we are some of the most creative thinkers on the planet. Now we must think critically. To think critically, you have to be intellectually curious. Intellectually curious means that you have to have an insatiable appetite for knowledge, that you're into personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant never-ending improvement. And with that intellectual curiosity, you are reading, you are studying, you're constantly investigating, you're constantly getting new knowledge, you're constantly applying that knowledge, and you use the application of that knowledge or the acquisition of that knowledge that provides you the critical thinking material and foundation that you need to think creatively and innovatively on developing new survival skills. What is Fraser Nation? All it is, Kevin, is a new way to develop a nation in the cloud that allows us to aggregate the best and brightest, provide one-click access to them, right? So that's an innovative way to apply critical thinking to solve a bigger problem. But that comes from reading incessantly. I read 100 books a year for 40 years, right? I'm a race man. I'm a student of Black people. I've crisscrossed the world with 3,000 speeches, 6 best-selling books. So this is what I know, and this is what I believe. I've been to the continent 31 times. I am a Pan-African. I've read everything that all of the Black great thinkers, from Marcus Garvey to Dr. John Henrik Clarke to Chancellor Williams. I understand who we are and what our potential is. I do not believe the lies that whites have heaped on us for 400 years, distorting our history, distorting our greatness. We have debunked all of those lies. And I've read the proper books to help me understand who I really am. And most Black people do not understand who they really are. That we are the children of the slave that would not die, that we have the genetic encoding of the great kings and queens of Africa, that we were building pyramids and solving complex engineered problems with other cultures, we're living in huts, eating each other. And in spite of the fact that America kept its foot on our neck for 400 years, we overcame that and we rose like the phoenix. We are an awesome and powerful people. Most of our people have never even been to the continent. And even less and fewer have ever been to Egypt. And Egypt is in Africa. It is not in the Mideast. And Egypt, which was formerly called Kemet, land of the Blacks, renamed by the Greeks when they conquered Egypt in about 100 to 150 BC. But for 5,000 years before Christ, 5,000, 6,000 BC, we were building pyramids and solving complex engineering problems. Go into the Valley of the Kings, go into the pyramids of Giza, look on the walls that are 3 to 4 to 5,000 years old. And what will you see on those walls? You will see Black people, blue Black people. And you will see Black people of all shades, just as you see Black people of all shades right now. So this is part of the critical thinking and understanding and knowing how powerful and how awesome we are as Black people, as God's first people. And don't you think for a minute that white people do not understand that, did not understand that, and did a psychological job on us. We went through a psychological holocaust second to none in the history of humankind. They were forced to help us think that we were less than who we are, right, in order to control us. Right? So that is something, that's the third thing, a critical mass of critical thinkers. those brothers and sisters who are focused on excellence and exceptionalism. And as the boy put it, the talented tent, the brain. Why have we gone backwards? People ask me all the time when I speak. I said, if the fish stinks, look to the head. We have not replaced Dr. King. We have not replaced Malcolm, right? It is leadership, leadership, leadership. Now, we no longer need a single leader. We need tens of thousands, if not millions of leaders. And that's what we're working on at Fraser Net through the Power Networking Conference, which is now 19 years old, named by Forbes magazine as one of the top 5 conferences in America, not to be missed, not one of the top 5 Black conferences in America, but one of the top 5 of all conferences in this country. We're 19 years in putting this conference on, where 2,000 of the baddest brothers and sisters, conscious and woke brothers and sisters, gather to teach, to train, and to share knowledge. So I'm not talking about it. I'm doing something about it. Our focus at the Power Networking Conference is business and money, because we believe that economics must become the new Black power. Our third focus is wellness, psychological wellness and physical wellness, because they are connected. We are outside of our natural minds, and we must work on that. And that's what we work on at the Power Networking Conference. That's what we work on in our podcast series. So that's the third. And the final I alluded to is our disconnectedness, the state of our disconnectedness. You see, it is okay to be dispersed. I live in Cleveland. You live in Atlanta. We have kinfolk in the Caribbean. We have kinfolk in South America. We have kinfolk in Africa. That's dispersion. We cannot be disconnected. I talked about this many years ago in a famous video that's over 2 million people have seen, where I showed a chart. This was the chart. And it was a chart of disconnected dots. And what I said is, what you will notice about these individual dots that symbolically represent Black people all over the world. It could represent Black churches, it could represent Black organizations, it could represent Black institutions. And what you'll notice about these dots is that everybody is doing their own thing, caught up in a Eurocentric value system of rugged individualism. Well, there is no power here. It is a trick. This is where all the power is. When you connect the dots, right? Whether you are at the center of the network or you are connected to your own network, this is where the power is. There's a beautiful African proverb that says that when spiders unite, they could tie up a lion. In communities where people are connected, Kevin, the schools work better. The crime rate is lower. The economic growth rate is better. Let me say that differently. Black people have every single thing they need to succeed except each other. Jews have each other. East Indians have each other. Arabs have each other. Hispanics have each other. We don't have each other, but God has given us everything that we have needed to succeed. We built the first great civilizations. We civilized this world. It is not what white people said. They came to Africa, pulled us out of trees, eating bananas. That's bullshit, right? We created the first great civilizations. We are God's first people. That's not hype. That's real. So we are not living up to the expectations that God has of us. We are not suffering, Kevin, because we cannot resolve our problems. We are suffering because we cannot see our problems clearly and succinctly and execute on them. You cannot have progress without execution. So the question always comes back to, what are you doing? Let me conclude this thought by giving you this analogy. It is easy to break a finger. it is hard to break a fist. Until Black America makes Black America first, Black America will always be last.
Wow.
We're 400 years into this. Another 100 on the continent with colonialism, 60 years. And we're still at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters in the entire world. As a race man, one who has committed his time, talent, and treasure to the investment and upliftment of his own people first, the thing that has disappointed me the most as an elder, as a man that has traveled 9.5 million frequent flyer miles, given over 3,000 speeches, written 6 best-selling books, and no matter where I go in the entire world, Kevin, whether it is Seattle or Miami, whether it is San Diego or Maine, whether it is New York or Los Angeles, whether it is Rio or Bahia, whether it is the Bahamas or Jamaica, Black people, or whether it is South Africa or Egypt, Ghana or Kenya, wherever we are at the bottom of every single economic statistic in the entire world 500 years later. The continent, the African continent, Kevin, we control 70% of the most important minerals on Earth in Africa. But yet, per capita, Africans are still the poorest people in Africa.
Dr. Fraser, Dr. Fraser, thank you so much for this time with you today. Unfortunately, we have got to wrap. My producer is screaming, wrap up. But definitely, I got to have you back, and we have to finish this conversation and get the rest of it out because the information is just wow. And I think it's so important for our community to hear this. Thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to talking to you much, much more.
Appreciate you. Love you, man. Keep doing God's work.
Thank you so much.
All right, now.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again, the unapologetic and unforgettable Dr. George Fraser. Join us again. Stay tuned in with the Atlanta Business Journal. We have a lot more in store for you guys, and we got a lot of new programming coming very, very, very soon. Join me Monday on the Real 1100 AM and iHeartRadio. I'll be sitting down with Anissa Blair. I'll be sitting down with Obi Mahaley from the Falcons, as well as Abdul Chestnut from XOD, one of the producers. Once again, thank y'all so much for joining me. This has been another edition of ABJ Live. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much and enjoy your day.